Hello and welcome to a stormy early evening here in Sri Lanka. It is actually the UPOSATHA today, the full moon of November. The UPOSATHA being observed, full moon lunar observation in most countries, including Thailand and India, on this day. It was observed here, Lunar Observance Day, Poya, yesterday, on the Sunday, to make it a little more easy and accessible for people who work a 5-day week. So I thought I would talk a little Dharma, a Dharma talk. So before that, I will pay homage to the Triple Dam. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ Namassāmi. So this time, the full moon of November, marks the lunar month, first lunar month I have been here. I've been here now for 30 days or 28 days. Something like that. Well, the full moon to new moon is 14 and a half days, so I'm never quite sure how it's worked out, but full moon of October was the day I left, or the day after the full moon of October I arrived here, and now it's the full moon of November, one full lunar month that I've been here and not wandered anywhere. I've been on one short trip to not so far away Gaul. I won't be making any more travel videos. That I'm going to leave to the experts. There are very many beautiful videos if you want to see Sri Lanka on YouTube, already here or on YouTube. And it's relatively a small island, so you can see it all on those. There's no need for me to show you that. I don't think it's appropriate for monks to be even taking photographs, in my opinion. So I'm going to restrict my activities to speaking to you of Dharma, like this, and to questions and answers, with the one exception that when I can find someone to do it for me, I would like to bring to you on occasions, but maybe just once or twice, a video of my morning alms round, Pindapat, because that is a wonderful experience for me. The people whom I visit and see on Pindapat each and every day seem to be so very happy and smiley. Although we're not supposed to smile on Pindapat and remain fairly equanimous and hand-faced, I cannot help but smile with the kindness that's offered and the lovely smiley faces I see each morning. It brightens my day. And if it's brightening their day also, that makes me very happy. And that I would like to share with you, because that isn't done already here on YouTube. So that kind of thing, yes, I will continue to share. The point of this is that I can share with you the Dharma from a monk's point of view, and the people whom are making travel vlogs and records of their exploration of this beautiful island can do the rest of it. So don't worry, you don't have to suffer any more noisy train journeys of me looking hot and flustered. We'll leave it to the beautiful people to do that with their Instagram accounts and selfie sticks. And anyway, isn't this real enough? The thunder, the lightning, the noisy traffic outside. So I'm not in my peaceful fisherman's hut, or indeed under my tree on the beach, for obvious reasons, because of the rain. It's also early evening as opposed to late morning when I'm recording this, because it just so happened this microphone decided. I occasionally plug the bit in the phone to see if it's working, and it was working. I thought, okay, I'll grab this opportunity to talk to you, as it is UPOSATHA. On the UPOSATHA today, we normally meet up with our other monks, our fellow bhikkhus, to recite the Patimokkha. If you're living alone, you can't do that. So we have this short statement we make and recitation that we can do alone. So I will be doing that a little bit later. And practicing late into the night. Maybe Nisachik is a Thai word, but and I've forgotten the Pali word for staying up all night. It could be that actually. But maybe I won't stay up all night meditating. I'll see how it goes. But ordinarily on the full moon and new moon, I like to stay up all night meditating. It's a good practice. It's only twice a month not to have any sleep. To really put yourself in a mode of really focused attention on your practice. For really it spans 2 days, because of course you work up to it on the UPOSATHA, you spend all night meditating, and then the following day you're kind of recovering a little, because it requires effort. But what it is it's sacrificing a night of sleep. It's giving something up. It's another form of renunciation. Now, what the Buddha spoke of in some sutra or another was that one core foundation to samadhi, apart from sila, of course, which is the core foundation of our practice, but something that is required for samadhi and is very important is actually happiness. So when I say that, I hear myself saying that, I think I'm always saying that happiness comes as a result of contentment, which comes from this practice of sila, samadhi, panya. So is it that do we have this chicken and egg situation again, of which comes first, happiness or samadhi, samadhi or happiness? If the Buddha's saying that samadhi has to come from a foundation of happiness, then how's it going to work if we need samadhi to have happiness, contentment? Well, it actually is not a chicken and egg situation, because happiness actually begins with renunciation. Now this does not mean you lay people or everybody has to become monks or nuns, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, renouncing all and adopting these 227 rules for bhikkhus, 311 for bhikkhunis, leading this, what is relatively, it's the middle path, it's not ascetic, but it is an austere life. It is a life of immense renunciation. No. But what renunciation is, it's an extreme form of letting go. Now this letting go is a throwaway cliche phrase, used often too much, like in the moment, here and now. But the reason these are throwaway cliche phrases is because they are so true. they are so important to the practice. So how do we go about letting go in reality? It's all well and good someone saying, oh, if you want to be happy, you have to let go. Well, that really doesn't mean anything. Of course, it should be always, as in one famous Thai Forest Master, Ajahn Chah, said, all this practice is about is to know and let go. It should always be in conjunction with knowing. You know and let go. So what do we know? What do we know? We know what is anicca, impermanent, what is dukkha, unsatisfactory, what is anatta, that is out of our control. This impression, this idea we have of ourselves is no more than an illusion, because we are just physical manifestations of the results of causes and conditions we have put in place. And that even includes our thinking mind, our memories, our so-called personality. All of this can change in a finger snap. Our physical appearance can change, our health, our circumstances, our willfully or not willfully. Everything can change very quickly, either through good or bad occurrences in our lives. And this affects obviously our thinking brain, our mind, our intellectual mind. Not that which is our heart mind, our mind of just knowing, of experience throughout this life, previous lives, and that which goes as a result of causes and conditions put in place here and now within this existence into our next life that we call the citta. That kind of knowing, which does remain constant. Everything else is so very impermanent. So we become attached, we become used to situations where we live, what job we do, whom we live with, our relationships, even our family that we're born into. But of course, these are no more permanent than anything else. We will be parted from those that we love. We will be parted from our nearest and dearest. We don't always outlive we might expect our children to outlive us, but that isn't always the case. Nothing is certain. We can't even predict our next thought, and we don't know how long we will be here. So this is where it's so very important to live in this present moment, but also we can plan to some extent for the future, but with the knowledge, with the wisdom that we've developed through this practice, panya, that whatever plans we have in place may not always come to fruition. We cannot bank on anything. We can just about be sure, if we breathe in, that we will breathe out. But that's as far as we can really be sure. Everything is uncertain. Now, letting go is knowing that, to know and let go. So that when we hold something, we can enjoy it. We're living in a nice situation with nice views, in a comfortable job, with a nice, a loving relationship. We can cherish, we can enjoy, we can reap the benefits of that existence. If we understand, however, the characteristics of that existence, anicca, impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, and anatta, everything being out of our control, then when any aspect or component of that existence alters, changes, naturally or through, for the better or for the worse, we are ready to accept it equanimously. Upekkha. This is one of the Brahma Viharas we're developing in this practice. Equanimity. So, how is it that we can be happy? How can we be happy before we've started to practice Sila, Samadhi, Panya in order to have contentment to be happy? Well, what we're gaining from that practice is contentment, not happiness. Happiness is just an emotion as a result of contentment. And we're establishing contentment through this practice of developing wisdom, that understanding of anicca, dukkha, anatta. And it comes from the ability to not cling, to see the realistic nature of those characteristics of existence in all that we have, all of our experiences of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, both good and bad, their impermanence, and therefore ultimately their unsatisfactoriness, and we are not in control of those. This knowing leads us to be more equanimous, and that is contentment. So we learn to be able to really enjoy what we have, but also live without. So this is where this practice of renunciation is so important, and why monks, nuns, bhikkhus, bhikkhunis give up so much. Because it's a fast track. If we're looking towards happiness being at the top of a mountain, let's say, or even enlightenment, nibbana, at the top of a mountain. Now, we can either go very, very slowly all the way around the mountain, very slowly, 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 like this, very, very slowly, gradually up to the top. Or we can take a middle path, the ziggity-zag path like this, cut into the rock to the top, or we can take a ladder straight to the top in a straight line. The ladder straight to the top in a straight line, if you visualize it as a very fast track, ascetic practice of full renunciation, of literally shutting yourself in a cave and meditating in samadhi until you die, is one way, which the Buddha did not discount but did not teach, did not encourage. The reason? This way, say you get nearly to the top and you slip, you fall all the way down to the bottom. The slow path, there is nothing wrong with that. Now this is more towards lay life. We carry on with our ordinary existence, but we keep sila, we practice meditation, we develop wisdom. We may well get to the top of the mountain and become enlightened in this lifetime, especially if we've put in the groundwork in previous lifetimes, so we're starting halfway up the mountain. Without even knowing that, we can become enlightened. But what the Buddha recommended was this middle path, the ziggity-zag path like this, that's cut into the rock. Now it's quicker than the slow spirally path all the way around the mountain, but it's not as quick as the ladder straight to the top. However, it's the middle path, but it is more on the austere and ascetic side of practice than the slower path of lay life, because it requires renunciation as far as the Buddha allowed. Now he did allow some what we call dhutanga practices. There are 13 dhutanga practices. One of those being nisicik, sitting up all night. But in fact, it's actually always sitting, never laying to sleep, is one of the 13 dhutanga practices. So as you can imagine, if you never laid down to sleep for, say, a month, 3 months, there are monks who have done it for 3 years, and some for their lifetimes. It's a very hard task. It's one of the 13 allowable dhutanga practices of the more ascetic nature the Buddha allowed as being useful and fruitful to one's practice, but not for lay people. These are strictly for monks whom are really wanting to push themselves to the limit. Now this path, the ziggity-zag, occasionally you will also slip, even as a monk, and fall down, but to the next level down. You won't fall all the way to the bottom as you might from falling from nearly at the top on the ladder. So there is some supportive structure in place, and that is the teachings of the Buddha. That is the Vinaya. That on this very important day, this UPOSATHA, when we either are with our fellow bhikkhus or bhikkhunis reciting the Patimokkha, the 227 rules, or we're alone, I won't be reciting them, I'll be honest with you, but I've always got them in mind, because the Vinaya, the supportive rules of the bhikkhu, for me, is my support. It's my not only my instruction book to life. In fact, the Noble Eightfold Path is my quick guide. You know, with some equipment you get a little quick guide on a card, and then you get an in-depth manual. Maybe you don't get such things these days, but last time I opened a box of something, it had this idea, a little quick card and an instruction manual. And I never bothered with the instruction manual unless there was a problem. But the quick guide was there, and how to turn it on, how to turn it off, how to make it do whatever it does. This is the Noble Eightfold Path. The manual is our Vinaya. It's our Patimokkha rules, our 227 rules. And we as monks have to know that. Not necessarily learn it, recite it off by heart, although that is a condition of some places. I've been unable to do that in Pali, but I know the rules through experience, because I'm facing situations in each and every day that require me to consult these rules, just in the back of my mind. How do I react? What do I do in this situation? From how we wear our robes, to how we sit, how we stand, how we speak to somebody, what we do if somebody does something that is potentially pushing us towards breaching those rules. And that is a situation where we have to strictly step back, look for assistance. They're not so strict on the handing things to you here, I've noticed, but maybe that's because they're not so used to monks being on Pindapat. But they're very quickly getting used to this fact that I will just give them this tray or something and say, please, for this is for ladies in my case. So I'm not sure what the rules are for bhikkhunis, but certainly for bhikkhus, we mustn't accept from the hand of a lady something into our hand. It means we can't accidentally touch them or them us. So we put a tray out, or normally we have an offering cloth for them to put the offering on there. Or they can put it directly into our bowl, our pindapat, no problem. But when they try to put it in my hand and this isn't available, usually there's a man, a husband or something around that I can say and try and explain. And they soon get the idea. There's a shop where I can go and get some things if I need something and my kapya isn't around, where I've asked the kapya we've sorted out the arrangement where they've left a little bit of money just for something if something I needed that was important, there was no one around. And they have a little tray there, and they're probably used to monks, so they can put something in there, pass it to me and pass it back, like this. So this is the Vinaya, that's just on a practical level. But this life we're living as bhikkhus and bhikkhunis is a life of renunciation. And you might say, well, how on earth is that going to make you happy? If we need to be happy in order to attain to really, what we're talking about here is the jhanas. Yes, jhana is just really another word for samadhi, but there are stages of samadhi leading up to the jhanas, and in order to really experience the jhanas, you need to be happy first. Well, you need to be experiencing the emotion of happiness, so you need to be content first. Because yes, happiness will come on a very temporary basis from just sitting, allowing the body to relax, or allowing the body to settle first in order that it can relax, and allowing the mind to settle in order that it can become calm. But if you're discontent when you sit to do this won't happen very easily. And you will keep going back to wandering mind, wandering thoughts. Nothing will come into your mind in terms of blissful, pleasurable experience to replace that tendency of mind wandering. Because one way to become very absorbed in meditation is for it to become blissful, rapturous, enjoyable. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying it, as long as you don't get too wrapped up in that enjoyment and not allow yourself to move on to the next stages. So you must always try to keep your focus on your meditation object, on the breath. However, long before that, state is arisen at, or is arrived at. One must be able to sit with some form of contentment already in place. And one way to do this is through renunciation. Now, as monks on our ziggity-zaggity path, we are renouncing so much. We have put in place a lifestyle, or the Buddha has put in place for us a lifestyle that is needing little. It's sleeping little, eating little, speaking little, requiring little of others, never asking for anything, just having to eat what is given to us, offered to us, and only that, and being content with that. A life that is such that we're hungry enough to be content with just what is offered, but also healthy enough. Now, many people, kindly out of concern, and that is also a form of generosity, often say, well, can you not have this? Can you not have that? Can I send you this? Can I send you that? And that is so much appreciated, your concern. But there is no need, because I get enough support in terms of food. There's always, if people want to make some financial donation, that's more than gratefully welcome and received, because it goes towards supporting all of the behind-the-scenes things that there are in order to enable a monk to stay in a foreign country, like travel, visas, this doing what I'm doing now has to be paid for. That all comes from your generous donations from abroad. Because, as you know, I really do not accept any money from local people here when I'm on Pindapat, although they do offer. They're learning, because I see the same people and they talk to each other. It's a small town. So they now make sure they get food. And I have, as a result, way too much food. I could come back with just enough to eat and a whole lot of money. But that isn't the path of the Buddhist monk. We don't use money in that way. We don't accept money. It's also important for me to know that I come from a country that is perhaps more wealthy than this country, and despite me having nothing to do with money, if it was needed, I would be repatriated to my country and looked after by the National Health Service and this, that and the other if I was ill or something like this. I have insurances in place for that purpose. So I don't make financial demands of people in the countries where I'm staying, ever. That's my own, well, it's actually also the nature of being a monk. The 10th precept is we don't use money. So it's very easy, and this is where this Vinaya isn't a problem. It's supportive, because there is no arguing with these rules, these 227 rules, or even just the 10 precepts if you're living in a monastery as an anagarika, say, before you ordain and you've given up the use of money. There's no confusion. There's no, we'll just have this little bit towards that, or keep just this in a safe place for that. It's absolutely no, I don't use money. And then that makes my life easier. And what is a life that's easier? Well, it might be a little difficult from time to time, but ultimately it is more content. So letting go of that use of money is what gives me contentment, and then that is happiness, which enables me to develop samadhi. Now, or practice samadhi, I should say. Now, I'm not saying you have to give up money, but just the slightest thing you can do without, and realize by doing without for just a period of time that actually you can extend that period of time to all time. So maybe you have a certain habit of getting a certain cup of coffee from a certain place on your way to work in the morning, and it becomes habitual, just that, a habit of, a habitual activity. And maybe you cannot do that one day and see how it feels. It might be a little bit disconcerting at first, but when you get used to it, you feel or see that it was something you didn't need. Now, this is just an example. You can find other things in your lives that you do habitually that you don't need to do, and also don't really provide you with much pleasure anymore, because they are perfunctory, just become habits that you do. Just by letting go of doing those activities is letting go. And when you know that the results of that letting go will ultimately lead to more contentment, which is where we derive happiness from, then you will find that process of letting go so much more attractive, so much easier. In fact, it becomes habitual in itself to be looking for things to let go of. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to let go of everything and take the ziggity-zaggity path or the ladder straight to the top for a fast-track enlightenment. No, not at all. We can continue on the comfortable route around the mountain, but the more baggage we throw off the side of the mountain and don't carry with us as we progress along that path, up the mountain towards enlightenment, towards nirvana, the less weight we're carrying, the easier the journey is, but the more enjoyable the journey is. Now, we can enjoy the sunsets along the way, the beautiful views. We can stop at as a layperson, a restaurant in the evening, a nice hotel, and enjoy a nice comfortable night, a nice dinner, and know that it's nourishing us and keeping us healthy, but it's also enjoyable. As long as we know that this is something we can let go of, and that really that is something we're doing for our own enjoyment and pleasure, by that just knowing we are letting go. We're not thinking, I have to be in the best restaurant to enjoy food. We're just enjoying food in the best restaurant because it's available to you. Also, from this letting go, it will allow us a little extra time either to offer to somebody else out of generosity, attention to give to someone else out of generosity, or indeed a little money to give to somebody else, or some form of something, food or some giving. It enables you to practice some generosity. Now, one real, sure, fast-track way of being happy is giving, is generosity. Now, this has taken me quite some years to get used to. I don't mind admitting that I was someone who wished to gain a lot in his business life. I was never a altruistic, a giver. I was more a taker, if that's the right expression. But this was just the way I'd grown into society. I don't think it was my natural way. This is the way society, the time that I was in, the environment I was in, was very hedonistic, it was lunches, there was an expression, lunches for wimps. Now this was not an ascetic practice, letting go of having lunch. This was, I'm not stopping working because I need to make so much more money just so I can have a bigger dinner. It was that kind of attitude, yes, and a macho thing. So altruism, giving, generosity isn't something I've seen as part of my nature until I came to this path of Buddhism. And even then, only since, really, being on the receiving end of generosity. When you renounce and you become a monk and you're totally dependent on other people for everything, you see what generosity there is in the world. And being at the receiving end of generosity is one way to really appreciate what happiness people derive from giving. And that is what I see each and every morning on Pindapat. But as a monk, I can't actually give much back. I don't have anything. However, because of the abundance of giving there is, because they can't just put some money in my bowl and me just walk away and go back and put it into my savings and eat the little food I have or need, I have quite a bit of an abundance of food. So on my way back from Pindapat, there are some people whom are beggars, street living people, and I'm able to give them some of the food, and maybe they're begging for money and they don't want food, but I do see them eating it. I have a little look back sometimes and they do eat some food. They do eat the food. So This is, it's a small thing, but it's an act of generosity I'm privileged to be able to exercise at the moment. I'm not clinging to it, because that won't always be the case. But whilst I can, I'm getting that same experience of happiness that I can see in the faces and eyes and smiles of people giving to me each day by giving something back. So there's that, and then when I come back here, Gamani, my kapia, he then distributes all of the rest of the food to other households. So he is getting the opportunity to give, and other people are receiving that need that. So this is generosity, and this generosity is other people's generosity being passed on, but it is also a way of experiencing some really true happiness that is the foundation of this ability to develop really good states of samadhi. And it all comes from the initial renunciation, this letting go. Because if I wasn't a renunciant, I wouldn't be receiving the generosity of others in order to be able to pass that on to people who need the food. So this is how the Dharma, this is how the teachings of the Buddha, this is how the practice works in its truest and most real form. I do hope to share that with you in a video soon. If I can find someone who can follow, not a professional kind of video, but just to show you how Pindapat works rather than me just describing it to you each time. But in the meantime, just sharing with you that experience also is something that I feel I can give. Because of course, not being monks or nuns watching this, it's something you don't experience other than from me sharing this experience of mine with you. And that is my other form of Dharma, my other form of giving, that I can really see now and reap from the benefits of. Because this is true contentment. Having so little, but being still able to be generous with something, whether it's your time, whether it's with just a little sharing of your food, whether it's just a little sharing of your experiences. Being able to give from the little reserves you have is so much more beneficial, let's say, than say just giving a small percentage of a huge amount of wealth. So you really do get this feeling of giving and contentment as a result of that, which when you think of it logically, which you shouldn't, doesn't really make much sense. But this isn't a logical, this isn't an intellectual practice. It is step by step. It is following the Noble Eightfold Path, and that is our little guide, our quick guide to success. But us as monks, we have to delve into that manual of rules that we have, those vast array of guidelines that keep us on track, keep us in the middle of this middle way, the middle path. Now, you too can move just as quickly towards enlightenment as even somebody going straight up the ladder. If you slip off the path, you won't go very far. You just walk back onto the track and keep going. When monks slip off, we fall a little bit further perhaps, because it's easier for us we have more rules to break, so it's easier for us to slip up on them. But they're not all really disastrous. Our core rules are the same as yours, the 5 precepts. With the exception of a couple of other very important ones. We're not allowed to speak of our attainments, we're not allowed to cause any division within the Sangha. Those two rules don't apply to lay people, but are extremely applicable, extremely serious offences, as is that of celibacy, to monks and nuns, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. So those 3 you don't need to worry about, but of course monks, nuns, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, we have to be very concerned with those. So we have to be very careful in our speech. And I spoke in the last video about right speech. And making these talks, I have to be very careful because I am coming from a monk's point of view, and I have to, when I read your comments and look at your questions, think of those coming from a layperson's point of view, and only share with you from my own experience as a layperson and as a monk what I feel is the appropriate response. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the absolute correct answer. This you have to look to in the scriptures, in the teachings of the Buddha, in the word of the Buddha, in either commentaries that have been written later or the Pali Canon itself, the Sutta Pitaka, the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses is one very good resource to get a really good understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. But the others in the collection are also very valuable too. But these are all so beautifully summarily put to us these days in very many different forms of books, and also in Dharma talks available here, and sutta studies and things like that available here on the YouTube channels that you've been looking at. So happiness comes from contentment, and contentment comes from letting go or giving up, renunciation. But only what you can and what is appropriate. Maybe give up an hour's sleep each day, giving yourself half an hour of extra meditation before you go to sleep and half an hour's meditation when you wake up. What a wonderful thing to let go of and give up is that. It gives you so much benefit immediately, because you're getting an hour's meditation each day that you wouldn't have had ordinarily. And that meditation, that sitting just before you go to sleep, maybe reflecting on the day that's gone before. Have I been keeping the precepts? Have I meditated today? Just that is more restorative and conducive to a good night's sleep. And then in the morning, before you do anything else, spending just half an hour, or even 20 minutes, just sitting in meditation, just to get ready, prepare your body and mind for the day ahead. This is far more restorative than the sleep you would have had without those two sandwiching it either side, those two short activities. That is also letting go. It's letting go of an hour's sleep, but gaining. You see, all of this letting go gives you something back. This isn't why we give, this isn't why we practice generosity, but it is why we let go. We let go because we gain so much back. So it's different to generosity, where we're giving to receive nothing back. We're not giving to receive. We're just giving because it makes us so happy. But we let go because it gives so much back. I'm wondering if my Kapiya's turned up outside. That's why I may be looking a little distracted. So I was giving some time to that thought rather than whilst I was talking to you. Now I'm fully back with you. Whether he's there or not, I can't see and can't tell. So this is the first month. It's still raining. I haven't gone on my wanderings yet on Charaka, but I'm being well supported. I have this secure place to stay. It was an empty building, and they've made it quite nice, as you can see. It's now, I'm getting people coming here, visiting me, local people, lay people, bringing offerings, always in abundance and more than I need, but it goes to suitable places. And now visiting for hopefully other purposes. We're going to have some robe washing activities going on. We're going to soon have some meditation. This is something I really want to encourage, that some people come here for meditation practice at least once a day for an hour. So for some group meditation, which I will include on these videos on this channel. But that's yet to begin. With the weather as it is at this time of the day, it does obviously affect many people, because many people come on scooters, motorbikes, or walking. There's not so many cars. So when it's pouring down with rain at this time of the day, which is a good time to have group meditation, then it's not practical for people to come here. But soon this will change, like everything else. Apparently the 1st of December, it's literally like that, or after yesterday I was told, Poya, that is the time when the weather changes. So we will see how it goes. Hopefully this sharing with you of all of this, my practice in conjunction with the locations where I do practice and the very different environments in which I practice. If you look just over this one calendar year, I began it in Thailand. Firstly just staying as a guest in the monastery as a monk, but a guest, and then as part of the monastery in my own little kuti there, and being very much part of their Sangha, and then for my Vasa in India, again my 3 months there, so 7 months in Thailand, 3 months in India, and now we have the final, the end of this calendar year here in Sri Lanka, continuing into next year, and I hope some very fruitful discussions with you, Dharma talks, practice, that I can share and you can benefit from. So I hope if there's something useful in what I've said today, you can use it. If not, you can just let it go. What we do have in terms of our practice, in terms of our precepts, in terms of those that we love around us, in terms of our existence, our homes, our jobs, our relationships, I'm never suggesting this is what we let go of. We hold on to those, but not tightly. Don't crush them. We hold them gently, like an egg. We cherish them. We enjoy them. We love them. We develop the Brahma Viharas of metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, joy for others. And we live with equanimity, upekkha, the fourth of these 4 Brahma Viharas. Developing these qualities within is the qualities that are developed as a result of this practice of sila, samadhi, panya. This is true contentment, and this is where happiness comes from. And this is that foundation that I started off saying, that along with sila, keeping the precepts, the 5 precepts of no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or taking of intoxicants, leads to the higher states of absorption in samadhi, leads to these jhanas. You may think these jhanas are something that maybe are elusive and not are just referred to in some channels and not in others, but this is something that the Buddha did speak of. So it is part of the practice. It is part of something, it is part of the experience of practicing this Noble Eightfold Path. Right at the end, yes, the 8th point, samadhi, but this is where that is all included in this practice of sila, samadhi, panya. So please, yes, use that if you can. If not, let it go. Share it with others if you think it would be useful also. Thank you for watching, and until next time. Just thinking, I won't say sadhu, 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 because that would be saying it to myself, but I'll say anumodana as a way of rejoicing with sharing the benefits of the Buddha's teachings that I am only from my own experience sharing with you and others, that we can all gratefully enjoy together. Sukhi hotu. Be happy and stay well. In case you're wondering what the little tune is, it's the bread van. Fresh bread comes around in the mornings and evenings. And the little tuk-tuk converted into a van which plays this little tune so that people know it's coming and they can go and get the bread. And I'm the beneficiary of that bread in the morning because it's put into my pindapart on alms round. And it's very good and delicious. Namo Buddhaya.